You ever wake up thinking you know exactly how your day's gonna go? Then, bam, life flips the whole script on you before you've even finished your first cup of coffee? Yeah, that was me. The morning everything changed. There's this particular hush that comes with dawn out on old pasture land. Not silence, not really, more like a deep, comfortable quiet, full of the tiny sounds that make you feel alive. The barn gate creaks, dew rolls down the barbed wire, hooves shuffle under the oak trees. A gentle rhythm. The only thing that kept me sane after my wife passed and my daughter left for college. I thought that quiet would last forever. I was wrong. It was a morning like any other, or so I figured, just me, my coffee, and my stubborn old shepherd mix trotting along behind me. Then I heard it, the angry grind of diesel engines, big machines chewing up the earth. My boots stopped cold, halfway through the grass. First thought, maybe the county had finally sent a crew to fill the potholes on the community road, like they promised since forever. But nope, this wasn't any road crew. I rounded the barn, and there it was, a huge yellow excavator, digging into the slope right past my eastern fence, scooping out big, wet hunks of clay like it owned the place. Orange utility flags cut a hard line across my field, like someone had divvied up my land behind my back. And there, arms crossed, red blazer sharp as a razor, stood Karen Myers, queen of the HOA, clipboard cocked like a weapon. She was waiting for me to say something, and trust me, I had plenty to say. Karen moved in 2 years back, high-rise on Willow Crest Drive, acted like she'd come to rescue us country folk from ourselves. First, she changed the landscaping rules. Then came the community compliance patrols, which really meant she peered over fences and fined you for painting your mailbox the wrong shade of green. She saw me before I reached the fence. "Oh, Mr. Dalton," she called, all smiles that never reached her eyes. "You're up early. Lovely field you have here." I took a slow breath, squinting through the morning sun. "What the hell's going on?" I asked, not bothering with small talk. She held up her clipboard, her shield. "We're making improvements. Erosion control. Your runoff has been a real problem for the HOA's greenbelt." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Runoff? This field hasn't flooded in 20 years. She grinned. "With all due respect, Mr. Dalton, climate change has changed our weather patterns. Last season's rain nearly drowned our new tennis court." I shot her a look. "And that's my fault?" She shrugged. "No one's assigning blame. We're just being proactive. The HOA board voted unanimously to install a water management berm here, a temporary structure, for prevention only." My stomach dropped. I looked past her. This wasn't some dirt pile. Concrete barriers, the kind you use for real heavy water, were stacking up. "You're building a dam," I said dead flat. Karen's smile got wider. "To protect our investments. It's a smart solution. You've got all this unused pasture. It makes sense to hold runoff here instead of flooding the neighborhood." I growled. "It's not unused. I have livestock down there. Calving season starts next week. You didn't ask for permission." She didn't blink. "You'll find that the HOA's jurisdiction allows for adjacent land mitigation in cases of environmental risk," she rattled off, like she'd practiced in the mirror. "Only with permits. Only with notice." I shot back. She arched an eyebrow. "If you have concerns, I suggest attending our monthly board meeting." And with that, she spun on her heel and marched off to her HOA-branded SUV, like the world was hers to rule. The excavator groaned louder, chewing deeper into my land. I just stood there, dog on my feet, coffee gone cold, thinking, how the hell did it come to this? Here's the kicker. I knew exactly what she was doing and how bad it could get. 18 years in military engineering, flood control from Louisiana to Iraq, and suddenly I'm watching someone make all the worst mistakes right in my backyard. Back inside, I hauled out maps, topographic surveys, even old FEMA data, fired up my Army Corps software on a laptop that probably belonged in a museum. It didn't take long. If they finished that dam, every drop of runoff from the whole subdivision would dump right into my pasture. No permits, no warning, nothing on file. It was illegal as hell. Karen wasn't solving a problem. She was creating a new one, and I was the only thing standing in her way. So I called the county. Nothing on record. Called environmental compliance. No plan filed. Not even a drainage study. It wasn't just reckless, it was war. The next morning I stood by the ditch, measuring tape, camera, that sinking feeling in my gut. Construction hadn't stopped. In fact, it had sped up. Concrete panels lined the channel like a backbone, hidden behind their fake Green Initiative PR. I spent all day filing complaints. Zoning, environmental quality, stormwater compliance. Same answer everywhere. We'll open an investigation. Translation? Nobody's doing a damn thing until something blows up. That night, Karen showed up again, this time with Brad, the HOA treasurer Bluetooth headset blinking like a little cop light. They waltzed right on my property. Your men are trespassing, I told them. Brad flashed that used car grin. No one's trespassing, mister. Dalton, we're improving drainage for everyone. Karen piped up, we're being good neighbors. I snorted. Good neighbors ask first. Good neighbors don't build illegal dams. Brad waved it off. It's not a dam, it's a runoff buffer. That's not what your contractor called it, I said. I talked to him this morning. He said you're shoring up the reservoir line. That's a holding basin right on my property. Karen's face never moved. It's still on HOA land. No, it's not, I snapped. That's my boundary. I've got the deed, the survey, the USGS map to prove it. She tilted her head. Even if it is, it's just grass. I felt something shift inside, old cold. Not just grass. I've got cows down there, pregnant ones. She waved it off. They'll adapt. I stepped closer. You'll remove that structure, or I will. Brad, try to play peacemaker. Let's not escalate. I stared at him. You want escalation? You're violating environmental law, trespassing. You failed to notify an adjacent landowner within 50 feet. That's federal code. Look it up. They left, muttering. I went inside, started building my case, historical drainage, drone footage, every violation in a digital binder. I didn't sleep that night. Rain started at 2 a.m., soft at first, then relentless. By dawn, half my field was underwater. The dam wasn't draining, it was trapping everything. My calves were restless, hocks deep in rising mud, scared. I grabbed my shovel, dug an emergency trench, shoulders burning, mind spinning with old memories. My wife, the storm that took her, warnings ignored by city engineers. I held the flood back, barely. But the worst came 3 days later. Found 2 of my calves dead, half submerged, bloated. Poisoned by fertilizer and pesticide runoff from the fancy lawns up the hill. Trapped in water that shouldn't have been there. Called an old vet friend. He shook his head, said, "This is runoff contamination, pure and simple. You need to report this." And I did. Filed a formal damage notice with photos, vet's report, deed, water samples, everything. HOA's response? A violation notice in my mailbox, excessive odor, unauthorized trenching, livestock waste runoff. I almost laughed. They were blaming me for the disaster they caused. Drove to the HOA office, just a converted garage. Left my packet for Karen. That night, I buried the calves under the ash tree by the old swing. My daughter used to play there. Now it felt like all I had left was the fight. Next morning, a $1,250 fine for environmental noncompliance. I dove deeper, pulled county blueprints, checked every line. Turns out the dam wasn't just unpermitted. It crossed 4 feet into my land, blocked a protected natural storm channel, a violation of the Clean Water Act. I sent everything to the authorities, even tipped off a local reporter. Karen's response? A condescending letter. We're reviewing your concerns. Please refrain from contacting board members. Warm regards. I started thinking it'd be death by 1,000 paper cuts. Fines, threats, more fines. But then, a twist, a brown envelope in my mailbox. Anonymous. Inside, a leaked HOA memo and group text screenshot. The memo spelled it out. Proceed without permit. Legal exposure minimal if phrased as erosion control. The text was even uglier. If you want to play Army engineer, let him dig his own grave. Hope the cows don't sue. He'll break before the dam does. I was done being polite. Sent the evidence to the state attorney general, asked for whistleblower protection. Retaliation got nastier. More citations, this time about my 100-year-old barn, the one with my wife's ashes in the flower bed. They wanted to erase me. But their dam endangered the very neighbors they claimed to protect. I reached out to an old friend at the state water board, Janice. Sent her everything. She called back, voice sharp. That dam's an illegal retention basin. Could break in heavy rain and send a flood right down Willow Crest Drive. I asked, could it get bad? She paused. If it fails, landslide risk. You need to warn them. And wouldn't you know it, hurricane season started early that year. Forecast put a big one headed our way. HOA doubled down, petty noise violations, mailbox complaints, you name it. I kept records, installed trail cams, caught a volunteer measuring my fence at 2 a.m. My daughter, Marissa, called worried. She remembered losing her mom in a landslide, remembered my promise. Never let that happen again. That night, I prepped for the storm. Reinforced trenches, moved livestock, sandbagged the barn, mapped out flood paths. Sent one last email to Marissa, told her I was proud, told her not to worry. The storm arrived in pulses, then a full-on onslaught. Rain pounding, wind howling, the dam groaning in the night. At 3:17 a.m., it failed, concrete panels blew out, a wall of water barreled downhill, straight into Willow Crest. Houses flooded, lawns stripped bare, cars swept into the clubhouse. Karen, red robe, second-story balcony, screaming as her perfect street vanished beneath the flood. I watched from my ridge, not triumphant, just numb. By sunrise, it was over. 27 homes damaged, 12 condemned. The dam was gone, and finally, people were listening. Karen tried to blame me, sent her lawyer after me. I laughed, called Janice. She said, the city's pissed, the county's embarrassed, and the HOA's running scared. Damage estimates? Medial. The investigation was underway. The second storm was coming. This time, evacuation orders went out. Karen called, her voice cracked, pleading for help. And you know what? I helped, brought sandbags, pumps, called in old friends. We saved what we could. When Karen's driveway collapsed, I pulled her out of the mud myself. Not for her, but for the neighbors who deserve better. When it was done, the HOA was dissolved, the board barred for life, and the city put in charge. Lawsuits flew, news cameras rolled, and I testified. Told the truth, backed up by every photo and memo. State lawmakers named a new bill after my wife, the Maggie Dalton Stormwater Safety Act. When I heard that, I stepped outside and just breathed. 3 months later, the land was healing, grass pushing through scars, the field alive. Settlement money rebuilt the pasture, the barn, the fences. Marissa came home. We walked the new field together, watched the lilacs bloom again. She said, you did it. I said, we did. Karen vanished, but the system changed. The community rewrote the rules. Public review, environmental checks, real oversight. They even put up a monument. Here stood a wall built on silence. It was broken by truth and washed away by rain. I walk there sometimes, not for recognition, but to remember. I fought for my land, for my wife's memory, for those calves, for every neighbor who ever felt powerless. For the right to say, never again. Because in the end, truth always finds a way through. Water, memory, justice, they flow where they must. And the land remembers. So what do you think? Did I do the right thing by helping those same folks who tried to bury me in fines? Or is there a line where enough is enough? Let me know. Drop your thoughts below. Share your own stories. Let's talk about what justice means in places like this, where the Real flood is silence, and the only dam worth building is the one that holds back ignorance, not the truth.